Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor. Today we're going to be doing the support tier list for 1023. This is the preseason patch. So as always, if you enjoy the content, please be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps out a ton on the channel. Come by, check out the stream every night starting around midnight Eastern Standard Time. We usually go till about 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Very friendly, chill community. We'd love to have you. And check out the rest of the guides and content on the channel as well. I'm going to be releasing a ton of new stuff for the preseason. I'm going to have a tier list for every single role, and I already did a super in-depth overview of all of the items in the patch notes video, so be sure to check that out. Okay, let's go ahead and get in here. Let's just hit on the support items again here really quick, so you can kind of fast forward. If you already watched the entire patch notes and got through the support stuff, you can, but I'm just going to hit on a few things about the support itemization for maybe the first 10 minutes or so of the video, and then we'll go on and get into the tier list itself, and I'll walk you through some different builds of different champs. But I think, as with everything in the preseason, yeah, it all starts with the items, right? So and the items are very strong. Many of them are stronger than, in a lot of roles, are stronger than the previous items. So you want champions that are going to perform very well with some of the new itemization. So anyways, let's take a look real quick and just hit on what I think will be some of the most notable changes. So a lot of it starts from the very beginning here with Spell Thief's Edge. This got a massive buff. Now it gives you 20 gold per time that you proc it instead of 15. That means you can proc it about 30% faster. 33% faster. So it's really, really powerful with some of these AP champs that harass very well, like Zyra with their plants. You can get this thing up to stage 2 by like 7 minutes into the game. Usually between 7 and 10 minutes into the game, if you're doing proper harassment, you can get this stacked up. So that's really good. You can get your vision a lot earlier. You get extra mana regen once it stacks up. So once you get to the Frostfang portion, then it's going to go, yeah, there to 75% mana regen and a little bit more ability power. Then once it gets all the way stacked up, then it goes to 100% mana regen. So very, very strong on a lot of those champions. Not only does it give you more mana to start with early on, but you get wards, which means you can push in and apply pressure under towers a lot more safely than you have been able to do in the past. So that's really strong. And they did add some extra into relic, and you just get a lot more money too, right? I mean, it's going to give you a lot more gold. So you're going to have 500 gold off of this item by 7 to 10 minutes instead of something like maybe 10 to 13 minutes previously. So that's a lot more gold online earlier. Relic Shield also got a bit of a buff. It went from 45 seconds for a charge to 35 seconds for a charge. So that's about an 11% buff, 1/9 of a buff there. So that's nice. It's not the same as 33%, but it is more guaranteed when you have the Relic Shield. So you'll probably be able to get this stacked up between 9 or 10 minutes as well, pretty comfortably. So those are all good changes, and I assume the Steel Shoulder Guards and this one, yeah, it's the same thing there, so very similar. Now, Fairy Charm, they did change this to where you basically have to buy 2, so it's 250 gold, but you get 50%, which in theory is the same thing, but that's going to hurt your back timings a little bit as enchanters, just because it was really nice to get something that was 125 gold and just like a control ward or a potion or just like boots plus fairy charm. It was just so modular. You could just grab a fairy charm and everything built out of fairy charms you were building on the previous patch. If you were an enchanter, whether it was Athene's, Redemption, Shirelia's, Ardent Censer, almost anything you could think of that was going to be an enchanter type of item would build out of those fairy charms. So that is going to hurt your back timings a little bit there, although it's technically not less gold efficient. Let's see, other ones that were notable. Forbidden Idol just feels absolutely awful now. This is such a bad item. They took away the CDR on it, which is what they're calling ability haste now. Completely took it away, didn't add anything else to it. It used to have the 5% CDR on it. So now with this, you're getting 10% healing and shielding, which previously had been priced at 37 gold each, so 370 plus 50% base mana regen is a fairy charm for 250, so that's going to bring you in at 620. So you're only getting like 620 gold value out of an 800 gold item. That's almost 25% inefficient. It's probably like something like 80% efficiency, 77% efficiency, something like that. I don't have the exact math on hand, but it just feels awful. It's a really bad item to buy now. Now, some of the items that it builds into are okay, but that build progression feels pretty terrible. And it only builds out of 1 fairy charm too now, so that means you're going to have to sit on 550 gold before you get any benefit, whereas before it was 2 fairy charms, which I guess is the same thing as this technically, so I guess that's not that much different from where it currently is, but that feels bad. Winged Moonplate's a pretty bad item overall. You're basically getting, 400 gold worth of health-ish, and, like, paying 400 gold for 5% movement speed, which seems pretty steep. But that does build into some okay tank items. Oblivion Orb is very nice now, because you can just buy it for 800, and then it just gives you Grievous Wounds. So if you're a champion like Zyra, like Brand, who has a lot of AoE, this can be a really good option for you, because the 30 ability power is going to be like 600 something, 620 gold or so. And so that means that you're only going to be paying, less than 200 gold to get the Grievous Wounds effects. That's a huge upgrade over the old Morellonomicon in terms of getting Grievous Wounds. So you don't want to complete Chemtech or Morellonomicon. Both of those are pretty inefficient in terms of what you get by upgrading it. So I would just sit on this unless you're at 6 items and you just have a lot of gold and you want to upgrade, then you can. But otherwise, I'd probably just sit on the Oblivion Orb. But that is a really nice touch to help counter a lot of healing out there. So that's going to hurt a lot of enchanters, the fact that Oblivion Orb is a lot more accessible, and they have a suite of other Executioner's items and other types of Grievous Wound items that people can get. So there's going to be Grievous Wounds everywhere. So that is going to hurt a lot of champions that rely heavily on healing, like Soraka, Yuumi, stuff like that. And it's going to hurt items like this Moonstone, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Bandoglass Mirror is new. It builds into a couple of the mythic items. It's okay. It's slightly inefficient. It ends up being like 95% efficiency or something, but it's just a note that it's not that great. Stirring Wardstone is a trap item. It's really bad, I think. It's 1,100 gold, and all you get to start with is you can hold one more control ward in your inventory for 1,100 gold. Now, once you place 20 wards, which you'll probably have by level 13 most of the time, especially when your wards come online faster, you can upgrade. It'll upgrade automatically without having to pay anything, and you get 25 ability haste, which is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of like maybe 550 gold value, and then you can store that extra ward, and you can place one extra ward. So you're paying about 550, 600 gold in order to be able to set one extra ward down, which is okay, but realistically, you're still only going to have 4 wards when you come out with your warding item, and they're going to sweep one of those wards, probably. Like, it would be rare for you to keep all 4 on the map at the same time anyways. So, I don't know. It's okay. Having the extra control ward is very nice, but that's a lot of money for the vision. That's like 600 gold to get the extra vision. And to upgrade this, you have to pay an additional, I don't know if it's 1,200. I think it's 1,200 to upgrade this. If you already have the baseline, you get 40 ability haste, 10% movement speed, and all that kind of stuff. So you're still paying 400 or 500 gold to get the extra ward stuff there. So it's okay, but I don't know. I don't think it's going to be worth it in a lot of cases overall. I mean, if you're just like super rich and you really want to keep your control wards, I guess now you get a little bit of stuff out of it. Aegis of the Legion feels kind of bad because it's 30-30 and like it was before, but now you're just paying an extra 300 gold for 10 ability haste. So it's just not that great. It's okay, but it can feel kind of bad in some circumstances. Knight's Vow got mega nerfed, so it's 400 health, no armor, only this base health regen, and it doesn't have any healing anymore on it, so it's a really bad item. You're not going to want to get it in most cases. If there's an assassin that's just like running all over your AD carry, and you just desperately need an item to help them out, then I guess Knight's Vow can be okay, but it's something that you really don't want to buy unless you absolutely have to for the situation. This new Staff of Flowing Water is great. Now, once again, the Forbidden Idols sucks to buy, and Blasting One's kind of iffy. It is expensive, but once you complete it, 60 ability power, 10% plus healing and shielding, and 100% base mana regen, it's going to clock in at, 370 plus 1,200 is like 5. So it's going to clock in around 2,000 gold, 1,900 or 2,000 gold probably in terms of efficiency. And so you're paying like 300 for the passive, but that's really, really good. Anytime you heal or shield somebody, then it's going to grant you and them an average of 30 ability power and then 15% movement speed, which everybody in the game loves movement speed, so that's just a universally good stat, and a lot of champions are going to like ability power. Obviously, mages will, but there are lots of AD carries that just have little funky AP ratios that you can use. Like Twitch just got a huge buff to a bunch of his AP ratios, and you've got stuff like Varus, Kaisa, Jen. A lot of these champions will benefit at least somewhat from having AP Ezreal. So overall, just a really good item. That's probably the best new item that they added. Ardent Sensor really kind of got screwed over on this patch. It doesn't have the movement speed on it anymore, and it doesn't have any CDR on it anymore, any ability haste on it. So, then they didn't give it any compensatory buffs. It got a very slight, fairy charm buff. So they basically took away, somewhere in the neighborhood of 600, 700 gold worth of stats on it, and they give you an extra 250 gold worth of stats by increasing it from 50% mana regen up to 100%. So it still does have a really powerful active. So if you have an 80 carry who's super far away or super far ahead, you can still go this, but it's going to feel a lot worse to build it. Then you have Mikhail's, which costs 200 more gold than it did previously, so that's pretty bad. That's like an extra 7% cost or so. And then you're going to get an extra 10 magic resist on it, which is cool, and about an extra 3% equivalency in terms of CDR, but it no longer converts your mana regen over to health regen, and they changed the Purify. It's very similar. It removes all crowd control except for knockups and suppression. But now it heals for between 100 and 200 on an ally. But the previous one gave 40% bonus movement speed and made you immune to slows for 2 seconds. So I think the previous one was better at getting people out of hot situations by giving them that burst speed and the slow immunity. This one does have a heal on it, so this one's about a wash. I would say it's a little bit weaker overall, but it's in the same ballpark. Redemption is arguably stronger now than it was. It is 200 more gold, so once again about 7% more cost, which kind of feels bad. But it does have 20% plus healing and shielding instead of 10%. It's got 200 health, so about 50 more health. It's got about 3% more ability power. It has 50% less mana regen, and it has no health regen on it whatsoever. I forgot what the health regen was. I think the health regen used to be like 75% or something like that. But it doesn't have that anymore. However, the baseline heal is much stronger, so it's 180 to 360. On the previous patch, it was 30 to 360, so this is much better as a rush item. Now, it does not have the triple scaling with plus healing and shielding anymore, which the old one did. So if you have 3 healing items, and this is probably going to be worse if you get something like, Mikhail's plus Redemption plus Staff of Flowing Water, it might be a little bit worse. But overall, if you get this as like a second or a third item in addition to your Mythic, it's probably going to be a little bit better. And then Zeke's is kind of weird. It does offer some, it has more health, so it has like 800 gold worth of health, which is nice. They took away, however, 1,200 gold worth of resistances, so about 600 gold worth of magic resist and 600 gold worth of armor. So that is kind of rough. This is going to be better against physical damage dealers because you're trading out a lot of magic resist for health, so that's good. But against magic in the bottom lane, or did I say magic damage? It's good against physical damage, not good against magic damage. And you're going to see a lot of magic damage. There's going to be a lot of Zyras, a lot of Brands, a lot of Luxes, a lot of stuff like that in the bot lane. So it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough. They did give you a little bit of extra CDR, which is nice. It's about 17% spell haste off of 17% CDR off of 20 ability haste there, so about 7% more CDR equivalency, which is nice. But they changed the immobilize around to where if you just go in and engage and then leave, you don't stick on them the entire time. So like if you're a Rakan, this is probably more damage. However, it's probably less damage if you're something like a Leona, who can really stick in there, apply that slow that the previous one had. And the previous one also did 40 damage per second to everyone around the tank. So in a team fight situation where you could have hit 2 or 3 people with the Zeeks before, it's going to be a lot weaker. However, you don't have to use your ult. So for like trading and small skirmishes in lane or on roams and things like that, this is probably going to be a little bit better or at least similar to the previous one. However, in big team fights where you could touch multiple people for long periods of time with the previous passive, then it's going to be a little bit worse. So it's kind of a mixed bag. It's a wash. And then as far as the mythics go, we have Moonstone Renewer. I think this, by and large, is a trap item. It looks really cool. Like, it's got okay stats on it. It's got like 800-ish gold worth of ability power, about 500 gold worth of health, so that's 1,300 gold. 20 ability hazes, like 540s, that's like what, 1840, and then 500% mana regen, so it's about 2340 worth of stats, give or take. So you're paying about 300 or 400 for the for the passive. So that's about on point. That's what a lot of them are in terms of their cost. With almost every item, it's always, most of them are like somewhere between 300 to 500 gold that you're paying for the unique part of the item. And this eventually will do a lot of healing as you level up a lot more, and as you get a lot of plus healing and shielding. Yes, it can be good. It starts off doing 30 to 60, but if you rush this item, it's probably going to start off with a base of 40. It's going to end up healing for like 100 every 2 seconds, which is really nice. But there is going to be a lot of grievous wounds effects out there, and a lot of fights are just not going to last that long. Somebody's going to get blown up, within the first 3 seconds of the fight. So it can be good in some situations, but I just feel like it's not that great because you have to hit enemies with attacks or abilities in combat. So you can't, if you could like heal through poke or something with it, that would be really nice. If you could just be like rotating, from bot lane to mid lane, and both you and your ADC are hurt, and then by the time you arrive, you're full health. If it was just like a little mini Warmogs or something, yes, that'd be really good. But the fact that you have to be in combat for it makes it a lot weaker. So it's okay, but I think it's largely a trap item. Imperial Mandate is probably the best one. That does have literally the same stats as the Moonstone, but now you're getting, every time you slow or immobilize somebody, then they take 80 damage on average, and then if an ally hits them, they take an additional 80 damage, and both you and your ally get an extra 20% movement speed for 2 seconds. So it is very nice. So like every 6 seconds, if you trigger this twice, you could end up doing like 320 damage if your ally follows up on it. So it's pretty good. It's not as good as some other options out there, some of the AP options, but it's still going to be pretty good. And then Locket, I think, is pretty weak. If you just look at how this active works, because it's talking about decaying, it decays super fast. So watch this shield. Look how fast that decays. It feels like it's a little bit better than it was on the PvE, but it falls off real hard. So you're lucky to get half value out of this if you're tagging multiple people and it's decaying on all of them. But that's still pretty good, even if you do get half value, right? So if the baseline's like 350 and you still are able to create an extra, 150 effective HP on 3 people, like that's still pretty nice. It's going to be like 1,000 gold that you're contributing to a team fight. So it's pretty good. The stats are okay. It's just a nice mixture of different things. So you give all of your nearby allies 5 armor and 5 magic resist, which is about 200 gold worth of stats. So it's pretty decent. And then we have what I think is the worst one, the Shirelia's here. So look at this. Once this thing falls off here, then look at my speed. So like right now I'm moving 461. Pop it and start running. It falls off almost immediately, and I get like 50 speed off of it. Like, it decays so fast. It's really underwhelming in terms of the stats. I think it's only like 80% efficient, maybe. 350 health, 20 ability haste, and then just 5% movement speed and 50% mana. Like, who is this supposed to be for? Tanks? Like, it doesn't have any resistances on it. They already have the Chem Tech as an alternative, which I'll show you here in a second. Is it supposed to be for enchanters? It doesn't have any AP, it doesn't have any plus healing and shielding. It's got some mana regen, but it's just a very confused item, I think. So they can't really decide if they want this to be for enchanters or if they want this to be for tanks. That's my read on it. Anyways, so it's just fallen a little bit flat. This used to be priced at 2,500 gold, and if, all of the enchanter items are 2,500, that would help out a ton, but the fact they're 2,700 is rough because the mage items, a lot of the really good mage items are 3,200, and I think this is where you start to see some differences here. So you're paying 500 more gold, and you're getting 40 extra ability power. If you compare this to like Imperial Mandate, you're getting 40 ability power. The mana regen doesn't really matter that much most of the time. And then you're losing 5 ability haste, and you're gaining 50 health. But 40 ability power is like 800 gold worth of power for 500 more gold. Then whenever you damage somebody, it does 175 to 250 and scales with HP. The Imperial does not scale ever, except with level. It doesn't scale with AP. So anytime you touch somebody, and it's a 40-second cooldown. They were wrong in the patch notes. It's 40 seconds, says it right there. I mentioned that in the patch notes video, that the PvE said it was 40, patch notes said it was 60. Patch notes are wrong. It's 40-second cooldown on Night Harvester. So it's very, very good. And, if you're averaging, by the time you complete this, like 225, 220, something like that, damage on this, then that's like 50% more damage than Imperial Mandate when it's triggered. And And you can apply this to each person. You don't have to CC them. You just literally damage them at all, and you trigger this. So if you just go in and just touch somebody in a team fight, a brand ult bounces around to a bunch of different people, you know, right there you're doing over 1,000 damage per team fight. So it's very, very strong. And when you have stuff like this that exists, why would you buy something like Imperial Mandate or Moonstone, right? Until they nerf this, you're paying 500 gold for 40 extra ability power, and you're doing a lot more damage. And it's basically the same thing. Yeah, you don't have the mana regen on it, but you have mana regen off of all your other items that you're going to get anyways. And I mean, how much do you need? You know, if you're taking Mana Flow Band, and you can even take Presence of Mind if you want to. It just feels like this is going to squeeze out a lot of other options in the Enchanter role. Even, like, I tried this out on Rakan. It was working great on Rakan. So, yeah, it's like even on, you know, Janna, Rakan, just all sorts of champions, you're probably just going to want to go Night Harvester instead of the other items. As far as, like, the tank mythics you can get, they're more expensive. They're 3,200, and they're really not that great. The Turbo Chem Tank is probably the best one that you can get. This is like a glorified Shirelia's. It's basically Shirelia's meets the Sunfire Cape. So it's okay, but it's 3,200 gold. It's very expensive, and it just doesn't do any damage. It literally doesn't. I mean, I guess not literally. Immolate does do a little bit of damage, but it just feels really anemic. And it's like, okay, you have 25, 50, so it's like you have less resistances than the old Zeke's used to have. Old Zeke's had 90, so did Locket, I think. So it's like you have less resistances than an item that costs 2,300 gold. You do have some extra health on it, which is nice, and ability haste. So it's not like it's all bad, but it's certainly not all good with this item. So I don't know. And the Frostfire, that's not good for a lot of the, like, the hard engage tanks that you would be playing in the bot lane. So it's really not that great. And if you look at the tank items in general, tanks definitely got the short end of the stick. The all capsers are overdoing it on the AD assassins. I don't think they're going to be nearly as strong as people say. They'll be okay, but mages are very good. Some of the supports are really good. A lot of classes, a lot of the fighters are very strong, and bruisers. But, like, the pure tanks did get kind of shanked. Almost everything got nerfed, right? We talked about Knight's Vow. We talked about Zeke's. Abyssal Mask is, like, okay now, but it only gives 10% extra damage to people that you CC. Frozen Heart is losing, I think it's losing 20 armor, just straight up, and getting no other, like, compensatory buffs. Randuin's Omen, I believe, lost some health. I think it was 400 health, so it may have lost 150 health there. It gets some ability haste. It has a slow, and reduces attack damage and stuff like that if you get close. But the active on this is very short range. I mean, look at this. I mean, you have to be right on top of them for that active to hit them. So the person you're going to want to hit with this is going to be the AD carry, right? Most of the time, to lower their crit damage. And so to stick on them and get that close to them, it's okay, but it's still a little underwhelming. Let's see, Force of Nature really doesn't matter. Okay, you get a little bit of extra movement speed and magic resist. It's not that great. Thornmail, I'm pretty sure they knocked off 20 armor off of this. They did lower the cost by like 200 gold, which is cool, but it's a lot weaker overall. Deadman's Plate, they knocked 40 armor off of this one. They gave it a little bit of health. I don't remember how much it had before. They gave it a little bit of health, knocked off 40 armor, and gave it 5% movement speed. I don't think that's worth. You're going to be a lot squishier. Warmogs is basically the same. Gargoyles is cool, but it's really expensive now. It's 3,300 gold, and that shield, it doesn't decay quite as fast as some of the other stuff, but it's still a decaying shield again, so it's a lot worse than it looks, right? So that lasts a decent amount of time, but it's not 4 seconds of, you know, invulnerability basically anymore, so it's all right. But I just think that tanks, I mean, it's not, like, impossibly bad. You can still get, like, Locket into Zeke's and then do, like, either Knight's Vow or Randuin's or Frozen Heart, but it's certainly a lot worse than many of the other classes of champions. Okay, so let's go ahead and, well, just get out of this. I don't think I'm going to want to come back to this, but let's go ahead and get into the tier list proper here. So I do want to make sure we do that, but I did want to hit on a lot of those things, because that's going to inform what I'm playing here. Oh, New Leandries does a lot of damage too. It's even more than Harvester on some champions like Brand. So that's really nice. Oh, and a lot of the AP supports and the Enchanter supports, now you have Banshee, Zanyas, and Demonic. So if we look at and those are under the mage items. But if you look at this stuff, this is a huge buff, because now you can either get Banshees or Zanyas. They just took 10 ability power off, which is about 220 value, and they dropped 400 gold cost on it. So it's very, very good now. So now you can finally have an answer to Zed or that pesky Blitzcrank that's trying to go after you, or whatever. And then on AP champs, Void Staff is cheaper. Then you have access to this new item, Demonic Embrace, which can be pretty good on things like Brand. I think it's kind of a trap item. It got nerfed a lot since it initially got previewed. It's only a 1.5% burn, and then it gives you 10 armor and magic resist. So it seems good, but you know, a lot of times Void Staff and a utility item might be better. But those are just new, like, really good options for AP supports and sometimes even enchanters. Okay. Let's see. You're still going to see a lot of powerhouse ADCs. I'm going to make another video about the ADCs, another tier list. So Shield Bow is going to be the go-to on like 80% of the ADCs. It's a super strong item. Then you're going to have Storm Razor is pretty cheap burst, and probably IE after that. And I think that Jhin, Misfortune, and Draven are going to be the best. So get ready for that. Lots of early game pressure and power. Graves, Kha'Zix, a lot of those kind of like hard carry, hard DPS junglers are going to be really popular. Hecarim, a lot of these champs aren't that great at ganking early. Hecarim is, but so you should have a little bit more time to assert your dominance in the laning phase. And then there's just going to be a lot of AD and most other roles in general. The mages do have some good items, so you'll probably see some mages mid lane, but it is nice to just have that. You're still going to see a lot of things like Yasuo, Yone, Zed, things like that also in mid lane. But it is nice to have that extra AP threat in the bot lane, just because a lot of top laners are probably going to be AD and a lot of junglers are going to be AD. Okay, let's talk about the list here. So I think Zyra's coming back. She's going to be really big. I guess I can walk through the items here. Oh, I've just got a list for them. I guess I don't need to go into the game itself. We can pull this out. The runes I would go are just Comet, Mana Flow, Absolute Focus, Scorch, Ghost Poro, Ulti Hunter. This is what I recommend on a lot of champs. Comet just gives you a lot of extra dominance early. Electrocute's pretty terrible just because of how she trades with the plants. And Dark Harvest really doesn't get that great until later on in the game. And you have to get people low and keep them low consistently to farm it. So I think Comet's just a lot more reliable. And every time your plants hit somebody, it lowers the cooldown on Comet. So you can really get that Comet cranking out a ton in team fights where you have multiple plants just constantly cranking out the DPS on people. Then you have Mana Flow Band, which is going to be very good, especially if you don't get a lot of mana items, which I don't recommend. On Zyra, Absolute Focus just allows you to do more damage when you're at high health. And then Scorch does add up a lot. Yes, Gathering Storm is good later on in the game, but you can proc Scorch so easily with your plants. I see Scorch, routinely get 600 or 700 damage in a game, and that's pretty good for a minor rune, especially one that applies a lot of pressure in the early game. And then Ghost Poro is the other one that I recommend from the Domination tree. A lot of people really underestimate this rune. It gives you a ton of vision early on. It extends your ward timers by almost 100% in the early game. And it stacks up. People forget about this. Whenever a ward turns into a Poro, you get 2 stacks. But if that Poro sees somebody, you get 2 additional stacks. So if you're constantly putting wards in their jungle, which you should be a lot of times, or even warding lane bushes and someone walks through it, you get faster stacks. And then once you get to 20 stacks, then you're able to get 30 extra ability power, which is over 600 gold value. So it's really good early because it gives you extra vision domination, and you get 30 ability power, which is really good late, and you get to keep the Poro for the entire game to give you extra timers on your wards that don't get cleared. So it's really, really nice. And that's the same bonus that you get off of Eyeball Collection, or that's the same bonus that you get off of Sweeper. So ask yourself this: is it more likely that you're going to have some like 10 wards die that you place, or that you're going to have something like 6 wards die and 4 of those somebody walks over the Poro within the Poro timer? Or is it more likely that you're going to get 10 kills and assists, or that you're going to sweep 10 wards? Because that's what the other options are in that tree. I think it's a lot faster to get the Ghost Poro when you have the warding item. I mean, every time you like replace your wards, that's like every 2.5 minutes you're getting 3. So I think it's really, really strong. And you see a lot of pros go things like the zombie ward, But the problem is that especially like under diamond, people just are not going to be warding enough. Like you're just not going to find enough wards to sweep in order to get like good value out of that rune. And then Ulti Hunter's what I recommend is the last one. They nerfed Ravenous Hunter pretty hard on this one. A fully stacked Ravenous starts at 1% instead of 1.5%. And then a fully stacked Ravenous is only 11% spell vamp versus, or Omni Vamp as they're calling it, versus it used to be 15%. So it got nerfed pretty hard on this patch. And Ulti Hunter's just great. I don't know how that works with Spell Haste. It's not converted over to Spell Haste. Do I have that on here? Let me see.
Why is it taking so long?
Oh, okay. Well, whatever. It kicked me off. But anyways, it gives you basically close to 40% cooldown reduction. So that's really nice. So these are the things that I get. You could also do something like Triumph plus the Tenacity rune if you want to go for that. Like there are a couple other options out there, but I think this is probably going to be good. Or you could go like Presence of Mind, Coup de Grace. But I think this overall is going to be probably your highest damage setup. Then I recommend going Frostfang. Now I haven't really seen Leandry's or Harvester. Harvester's going to give you more upfront damage, but if you're going to be having longer fights and people are going to be sitting, you're going to be having like these 10-second fights or whatever, then Leandry's is going to be a lot stronger. So either way is good on her, either Leandry's or Harvester. Void Staff second. I actually tested out, does Void Staff second do more than the Demonic Embrace? And the answer is yes. So it just ends up doing a lot more damage than people think it is with that new Void Staff. So I recommend that second. Even against, my test was against a 50 magic resist target that had 1500 health. So a really low magic resist target, the Void Staff still overperformed. And then just getting a utility item next. Banshees or Zanyas are both really good options. If you're really rich, Death Cap's pretty good. Or you can get that Demonic Embrace if you want. Okay, so Zyra is going to be super strong. And the reason that I prefer her to some of the other mages is you can spawn those plants in bushes, so it's a really good way to check bushes for free. And you can fight over control wards, because not only does it see in the bush, it doesn't get locked out by control wards, so it will maintain its vision, and it protects you, right? If they want to come up and try to fight you over that pink ward in the bush, they're going to be eating a lot of plant shots, and you're going to have vision of them. And sometimes they won't have vision of you, depending on how you're working around Fog of War, and they're risking you hitting them with your E and just blowing them up. So she's really good at vision control around bushes. She has excellent consistency with her damage in lane. And what I mean by that is you have really long range with your Q plus spawn plant in the open field. You get free shots off on them, pretty much. They can't really respond because it's like 1500 range. And then even if you miss sometimes, like if you throw your E or your Q at somebody and you spawn a plant, sometimes even if you miss with the spell, the plants will still start hitting the person. So there's a good chance that even if you miss your skill shots, you can put up a lot of damage. So obviously it's best if you hit them, but there will be times where we all miss some skill shots. And so having that extra like guaranteed little bit of damage is very nice. And then she has a really good AoE team fight, like big damage ult that has a huge knockup. So just very strong, excellent pressure champion early. Okay. Brand is the other one that I'll mention. This is probably the one that's going to get the most press that everyone's going to be playing. He did actually get nerfed a little bit on this patch. And he still is pretty strong. Exact same runes as Zyra and exact same recommended items as well. I do think Brand slightly favors Leandry's a bit more because you're going to have that 4 seconds of burn on your passive. And, so you're guaranteed to keep the Leandry's going for 8 seconds. So because it burns for 4 seconds after the last tick of damage on someone. So you're guaranteed getting a little bit of extra value out of it just because of your burn. So, and he needs the mana a little bit more than Zyra does too. But yeah, I mean, Brand has really good harassment with his W. It's big damage. That burn is very nice. Really good AoE damage in team fights off of his ultimate. Good wave clear. Nice stun. If you land that stun, they're probably dead. Really big all-in damage. And now you can act as your own conduit, so you have ways to kill people out of the brush now. So you can walk up, press E, Q to get the stun on somebody, W, and then ult, and it'll bounce off of them to you, to them, to you, to them. So it just gives you a lot more isolation damage than you used to have as Brand. So I still think he's going to be super strong. I just like Zyra a little bit more just because, once again, you have kind of that cushion, that safety zone where even if you miss your skill shot, you still get some damage. You have better bush control, and I think you have better CC with that knock up because you have your root off of your E and you have the knock up, whereas his brand just has the stun. So he's pretty good. He's strong. I just like Zyra a little bit more, but he's good. It's kind of a skill matchup if they go against each other. Okay. Swain is another one that I think is very strong right now. Now, some people have been sleeping on Swain. I've seen him in my games. He is kind of frustrating to go against. And he just has really good engage in the laning phase because you can throw your little E through the minions, and it's like 850 range, and then it'll just grab them, and you can pull them back towards you. So not only is it 1.5 seconds of CC, and it goes through the minion wave, but the fact that you can pull them out of position by like 400 units or something is pretty huge as well. And he has really nice burst as well, right? Like once you hit your Q and then you pull them back with your passive auto attack, or once you hit them with your E, pull them back with your passive auto attack and then Q, it'll trigger electrocute as well. So he does big damage all by himself. I think Taste of Blood is nice for trading in the early game. You could also go for Cheap Shot if you want a bit more damage. Ghost Poro, Ravenous Hunter. I'm actually leaning a little bit more towards Ulti Hunter here, just because Ravenous, the healing is really nice on Swain, but it's a lot less than it used to be. So I don't know. Maybe it is correct to go Ravenous. And then just Manifold Band and Gathering Storm. You can do Scorch, but he doesn't poke nearly as well as something like Zyra or Brand. He's pretty good, but he's mostly an all-in champ. So having that Gathering Storm for a little bit of better scaling is nice. Leandres is very good to go on him in team fights when he has his ult ticking. Now, someone did mention, I don't know, someone did mention that Ravenous Hunter does work really well with his ult because it gives your birds even more healing, which converts over to, I think, extra damage. But either way, that's fine. So I think Leandres is probably where you want to be because you tend to have a little bit of longer fights in team fights. Zanya's is obviously very, very good on him, so getting Zanya's is handy. You could also, if you're going to get Zanya's, you could get Stopwatch plus Boots, and that might be alright. Or I guess you can't get both of those. I guess you could do like Biscuits plus Stopwatch. But either way, same stuff. Powerful champion. The main difference with Swain, once again, is he has that nice hook, and he is going to be tankier than some of the other champs, and he really likes to get Zanya's anyways because it synergizes really well with his kit. So if they have a lot of AD assassins on their team, like a Zed or a Kha'Zix or whatever, he could be a really good choice. And he does have a lot of lifesteal too, so he's kind of hard to take down. And then Rakan, but a special build of Rakan, I think is going to be good. And I tried out something similar to this, but like an AP Rakan build. Because remember that Rakan has really good AP ratios, right? So if we do... people forget about this. They nerfed some aspects of his kit, but almost always when they nerf something in his kit, they give him an extra AP ratio on something else. So he has 90% on his shield, which is very good, and then he's got 60% on the damage portion of his Q, 70% on the healing portion. His W has a 70%, very respectable, and then his Battle Dance has a 0.8. Remember, you can do that twice. That's really a 1.6 scaling on his shield. And then his ultimate has a 50%. So he has pretty good ratios, AP ratios. Like it seems like he may not. His W also has 290 base damage. That's a lot of base damage. That's more than a lot of mages. So if you're maxing W, which is what I recommend most of the time, you can do some really big damage. So yeah, I'm recommending trying out Airy here. I tried an Electrocute build and it was pretty good. You could do Electrocute. Airy is nice because later on, like, it is just so versatile. It can help you out with your shields as well. But Airy, Mana Flow Band, Absolute Focus, and Gathering Storm are pretty good. And then Ghost Poro and Ulti Hunter are where I would go. And then just Sork Boots, Frostfang, Harvester. Now, Harvester is... Harvester is pretty good on him. People forget that that item also speeds you up by like 30% for 1.5 seconds. Maybe it's 25% for 1.5 seconds. So that's pretty nice. So basically, if you go in with your ult, it's going to do big damage, but then it also gives you extra movement speed. So that you can move around and touch other people as well. So it's really good in team fights, and you can trigger Harvester on a whole bunch of different people. So that is very nice. And then Wand of Flowing Water is really good, like we talked about before. It's pretty cost efficient and gives a huge buff to your team. It is a little trickier to hand this out to people when you don't have Font of Life, just because you actually have to shield them or heal them to give it. But you can at least get this on a few people in combat. And it gives you personally that 15% bonus movement speed and the extra AP, which is going to be really good on him. And you can also get Ardent Sensor or Death Cap somewhere in there if you want. So I think Rakan still has a bunch of good items. You can get Zeke's if you want to have like a little bit of takiness. But nevertheless, just high pressure, go for those trades. The WQ auto attack in lane every time it's up. And I think Rakan can exert a lot of pressure there. Okay. Lux is one of the final tier ones that I'll mention here, and the main reason that I have Lux up here is she outranges a lot of these other mages, and I think that having a ranged mage is very nice because you're going to see stuff like Xerath and Vel'Koz as well, who are pretty strong. I have them off this list because I feel like they're a little bit more gimmicky, but if you're good on them, then they can completely dominate and take over a lane. Like Gen Xerath is just like impossible to deal with unless you have a jungler that's going to come down and help you. But I do like Lux because not only does she have like long range and pretty high pressure between her E and her Q in lane, but she does have her W, which is really nice for going like Wand of Water. I think Luden's is probably the item for her. You can go Wand of Water as well, but that does give you some extra movement speed, gives you some extra poke, which is nice. You can try out like Horizon Focus if you want, which could be pretty good with her combo. So she just has nice poke, the decent shielding, and like decent peel with her Q. So I think she's good. She can outrange. She can put some pressure on the Zyra and the Brand. And then as the game goes on, she's got the shield and she has the potential engage off of her Q. And pretty high scaling as well. Okay. Now, Rumble is a really interesting one that I've been trying out lately. I had some really good success with him at first. And then I played a couple more games. Not quite as much success with him after that. But it was tough to say because we had some really kind of turkey teams going on before that. But I did have him much higher. I had him in my top 5. But I do think he has the potential to be a breakout support on this patch. I'd have to try him in more games and more matchups to just kind of see. But he does a lot of damage early on. And he has nice stats. He's got 590 base health. He has a repeatable shield as part of his kit. He's got 345 movement speed. So he has very nice trades. I mean, his Q, when it's powered up, is 510 damage if you hold it on him the whole time. AoE, like anyone who's near the person is going to be taking that much damage. So that's a really big deal with 165% AP. You've got your Scrap Shield, which is, enhanced shield can go up to 300 shield strength. Then you have Electro Harpoons, which, can do up to 480 damage. Your ultimate can do like 1 billion damage. At max rank, almost 1,700 damage. So he just has a ton of damage. He doesn't need mana. Oh, excuse me. I'm trying to crank these out, but I've been working on it all night. But you're going to spam your spells. Your Harpoons have 850 range, so about the same range as Zyra and Brand as far as harassment. Flame Spitter's big damage. But the one major thing that sets him apart now is I think this Equalizer is really good engage, right? 1,700 range. So you can just roll up, and open up on people from Fog of War. It's only a 100-second cooldown as well, and it's going to do massive damage, right? So even if they run out of it in 1 second, like they just stay in it for 1 second, it's still going to do 200 damage at level 11, right? And if they sit in it for longer than that, then they just get completely destroyed. So nice engage, nice harassment early. And now he has some really good non-mana items that you can get, which is great. So you can get Harvester, which is really good. You can get Void Staff, which is really good. He really likes Zanya's. If you activate your Flamethrower and then Zanya's, the Flamethrower will keep spitting out fire while you're Zanya's. That's a really nice interaction. Banshee's Veil, once again, is going to protect you from Teemo Shrooms, Blitzcrank hooks. There's all sorts of nasty stuff out there. So I think he does have a lot of potential. Now, you do have to get close for the flame spinner, so you do have to, be very careful and don't overdo it, because if you run forward too much, then they could catch you out. He doesn't have great escapes if your W's on cooldown. So, I think it's really good. I'm going to try him out some more. But yeah, the main thing that sets him apart from the Zyra and the brand is good quality long-range engage on a short cooldown. Sona's another one who just feels like there has to be some kind of build that's good on Sona, because she has such great ratios in her kit that it's just hard to not imagine a way that she could be good somewhere somehow, right? So maybe, but it's is it Leandri's? Is it? It's probably just Harvester, but then she's going to be short on mana because she is kind of a mana hog. So it's will Mana Flow Ban and Presence of Mind be enough in order to overcome the fact that you're not going to be getting a lot of mana items? I don't know. I mean, maybe the nerf to Athene's is enough to hurt her. She can go Flowing Water early, but it's what are you going to get? Moonstone, she can't really use Imperial that well. I don't know. It feels like it might take her a little too long to come online, because I don't think she immediately has an awesome mythic. Maybe Luden's. Maybe it's Luden's. That would allow her to reposition, would give her some pretty good poke. I think her Q range is 900 if you don't go for the auto attack, so maybe it is Luden's. Luden's into Water Wand, I think could be pretty good, but she's obviously very good in team fights, has a huge high impact ult, very good with Water Wand and Ardent Sensor. It's just trying to find out which kind of mythic will suit her, but maybe it is Luden's. Okay, Janna's another one who's really good. Now, she can use Imperial with her W if you want to do that. I think that, maybe she might also like something like Luden's or Harvester. So, we'll have to see how that pans out. But she's just really good at rotating, right? Getting around the map, helping out your split pushers, helping out, counter ganking, rotations, all that kind of stuff. So, it's really her mobility around the map that's going to make her pretty strong. And then Karma is, we'll see. Karma has not been having a good time lately, but historically she has been pretty good into champions like Zyra, like Brand, so we'll see. I mean, maybe she can go Harvester or Luden's and keep up early. She does have that AoE shield, which is very good with Ardent and the Water Wand, if you can afford to get those. So that could be something that's kind of nice. So we'll just see. I'm not really sure what she can build, but she does have a lot of pressure early. She can throw up a lot of damage. Historically, she's a good counter to many of these top picks. So we'll see how it shakes out, if people can find the right kind of build path on her. And then Blitzcrank overall is, he's good because you can grab Brand, and if you get a hold of Rakan or Lux, you can probably kill him. Zyra is actually very good into him because your plants can block the hook. You can even use your plants to block the hook from, block your allies from getting hooked if you're fast enough with the plants. But the big problem with Blitz is now Banshees is available for mages, for enchanters, for DPS supports. They all have access to Banshee's Veil, and that is a nightmare for Blitz. He has no way to knock that off reliably. Someone else on your team would have to pop that before you're able to hook. So it feels bad. It's going to slow him down quite a lot at a certain point, but if you land a lot of grabs early, it can be good. He'd probably just go for Kimtech, just like a Righteous Glory to try to run in there. Hell, you could go Harvester with him too. Just get that burst damage, upfront burst as much as you can. But yeah, Blitz is okay in the right situation. He's very one-dimensional, but he could be good. And then these, I'm not really sure. I just have Nautilus and Leona because it's yes, they are tanks. Yes, they do have good engage. It's just the items are really bad compared to the AP items and just a lot of the other items out there. So, yes, they can probably go Locket, Zeke, Knight's Vow or something like that and be okay, but I think overall they're definitely going to be a little bit weaker than they have been in the past. Yumi is kind of an interesting one. Yumi has gotten Ludens in the past, and I suppose you could do that again. So yeah, that could be something that's pretty decent. There are some things that can take over games. Some of these bruiser champs, so like Eclipse on Riven or Gorge Ranker Darius or Stride Breaker Garen, things like that. So if someone gets ahead, kind of classic Yumi, she can get on there and enhance them a lot. The Water Wand is very good. Moonstone can be all right. That's what she would get, most likely. So she has some good options. Ardent Sensor is good, obviously. She has some good options. But the laning phase can be kind of rough. If you're against something like a Zyro or a Brand, it's going to be kind of hard to heal through that. But, maybe you can do it. Okay. Soraka's another one where it's like, yeah, Moonstone seems good. Water Wand, Ardent Sensor, all this stuff seems solid. The arguably improved Redemption, all of that. But the problem is there's so much Grievous Wounds everywhere, and you're just going to take so much pressure from a lot of these mages. If you can heal through it, then it could be pretty good. If you're landing a lot of your Qs for those heals and you get some good mana regen early, maybe you can get through it, but it still is going to be a little rough out there. And then finally I have Lulu. Lulu there's still going to be some way that Lulu's really good. I mean, with Twitch, obviously she's good, and I think Twitch might be a top 5 ADC right now. But she still has solid harassment. Her AP ratios are pretty bad, though. Almost everything's like a 0.5. So that's pretty rough. I don't think she can go for anything like Ludens or just any of the AP items. I mean, maybe I'm wrong about that. She's probably going to want to go Mandate because she can trigger it with her Q. So she could go Moonstone Renewer, but I think Mandate's probably where she'll be. And she's still okay. Has a solid kit, just doesn't work like super well with a lot of the popular items, at least as far as I can think about it. And then the honorable mention, Bard kind of fell off a cliff here because the 2 items he really liked to get, 3 items actually, were Athene's or Dead Man's Plate or Shirelia's. Usually those were his first 3 items. It just would depend on the order that you're getting them. All of them got hard nerfed. So that's really awkward for Bard. And he just doesn't work well with a lot of the items that are going to be strong, right? Like his ultimate, doesn't have an AP ratio, neither does his E, so stacking a lot of AP feels bad, so you don't really want to go in the Sorcerer tree. But then getting something like Imperial Mandate's not that great either because, I mean, yes, your Q can proc it, but, your ultimate, it's going to fall off pretty quickly after your ultimate goes away, so if you ult somebody. So, I don't know. It's okay. Maybe someone will find a really good build with him. I mean, maybe he just goes for, like, Gnasher's Tooth AP Bard or something like that. I don't know. Maybe he goes for some kind of troll build like that. I'd have to think about it very carefully and come back and, have some more for you. I'll try out some stuff on this patch, but nothing jumps out at me, like, at least from the obvious support tree that looks really good for Bard. I mean, you could argue, yeah, some stuff's okay. The new Redemption can be good on him. He could use Knight's Vow to help out a little bit. So it's like, there's some stuff that's okay. I guess you could argue, like, maybe Everfrost, which adds, it's kind of like the old GLP, but it roots people that are in the middle. So I guess you could hit your ult and then walk up and Everfrost somebody and then use your Q to bind them again into a tower. So maybe you could have a setup like that. But I think it's going to be tough out there, so we'll see how it goes. But anyways, that's going to be it for this video. Thank you very much. Orianna is an interesting one. Seraphine got nerfed on this patch for support. We'll see. I wasn't a huge fan of her to begin with. I don't think any of the items really jump out as being amazing on her. I mean, I guess Ludens would be pretty good, just kind of like Lux type of build could be okay. So she's all right. She's not great. Thresh, kind of in a tough spot. He gets completely dumpstered by AP supports unless you just land a bunch of miracle hooks, and that's what we're about to see a lot of. So I don't want to play Thresh into Zyra or Brand if I have a choice out there. Pyke is an interesting one because Prowler's Claw is very, very good on him. If he E's forward and then you just, at the last second, you Prowler Claw behind the 80 carry when your E's like coming back to you, you can virtually guarantee a stun. Even if they flash or dash away, it's going to follow them, just like a Warwick Q. So that is a build that I think could be pretty strong, and I've tried it out, and it is pretty fun with Prowler Pike, as I call it. That could be good. And Nami, I'm not sure. I mean, Nami is a very good early pressure laner, but I'm just not sure what she's supposed to buy, right? I mean, maybe it's Harvester, just like everybody else. Harvester into Water Walking, or Water Wand. I'm not really sure what's up with Nami, but if you can land your bubbles, I think there's got to be some combination of items that could be pretty good. But anyways, that's going to be it. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed this. Be sure to like and subscribe if you did. Sorry if I am a little bit tired. I'm like literally about to pass out. I think I zoned out for like 2 seconds in the middle there. But I got this finished for you, so be sure to check that out. Be sure to check out the lengthy patch notes video, but I'll have timestamps there for you, so I talk about all of the items. So check all that out, and that's going to be it. Have a good day. See you next time.